Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's Chris, your YouTube daddy here, and today's video is going to be cash is king. In my opinion, we should always use cash wherever possible and not use credit cards. And I've always been the same. And people think I'm weird, but I'm going to give you my reasoning behind it, and then you can make your own mind up. So, apparently about 30% of the population now don't carry cash with them. Okay, so we'll start with that statistic there, yeah? So I've just written down a few keys here of why I think cash is the best way to go forward, and you guys make your own mind up, right? To start with, first and fundamentally, yeah, I think that if you use a card, you tend to spend more. So if you go out, let's say you're going out shopping and you say, I'm going to do my grocery shopping, I'm going to spend £50, and you spend £50 because that's your budget for the week on your grocery shopping. So you've got your £50 in your pocket, so you're going round, and you're counting it up, you're adding it up as you're going along. So once you hit your limit, you know you can't spend any more. When you've got your card, you tend to do more impulse buying. You go zap, 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 and you tend not to think about it because you've not got physical cash in your hand. It doesn't seem the same. So people tend to overspend when they're using cards, even on debit cards. So how many times have you been out and gone shopping and you've ended up buying something that you didn't really go out shopping for, but you used it on your card? And it feels great at the time until your bank statement comes in, and then you realise you've blown your monthly budget in 2 weeks. Because most of the people, well, certainly how I do it is, you've got this much money to spend in a week, and within that much money, X amount is going to be for your electricity, your rent, your food, your petrol, etc., etc. And so when you've only spent the amount you're meant to spend, you stay within your budget. But if you're going out zap, 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 you tend to spend a lot more, and you tend not to look at prices. This is why big businesses like to use card machines, because they know you're going to spend it more. So, for instance, if people come into my place and they want a copy, they have to give me £1 for a copy. There you go, there's £1, and it's a copy. If you go into one of these posh coffee places where you can only use a card, there you go, there's a copy, that's £3.50, zap. And you don't really think about it because it's just a zap on it until the bill comes in. So in my opinion, the main reason you should use cash over a card is to save money and stop getting yourself into debt. And especially if you're using a credit card. Oh my God, the credit card interest rates are so bad. And if you don't pay, it's okay if you pay it off within the month and you don't incur any interest. But if you don't pay it off and you overspend, you then end up paying interest and you end up perpetually in debt, which is what the banks want, because the banks will not make any money off people using cash. If I go out and I spend £100 in cash, the banks will not make any money off that at all. And that's what they want. The banks want to make money. The banks want me to go out and spend on a credit card or a debit card. So one, they're getting paid transaction fees off the business, so the business has to pay 2%. Where does that 2% come from? It's not the business paying for it, it's the person paying for it. So that business will then put the price of the product up by 2%. Really simple. So if you use cash and a business only uses cash, they don't have to pass that percentage on to you, which means that you're saving money and you're not giving the money to the bank. Does that make sense? Makes perfect sense to me. Right? So I've just wrote a few... that's a key point I've put here. So we don't want the bank to make money off our money. And you say and especially if you've got a credit card, because they not only charge the business for the transaction fee, they'll also charge you money for the transaction fee. This goes, if you saw that video that I did a couple of weeks ago about when you're going abroad, only use cash and not card. This is for exactly the same reason, because the banks want you to use the card because they'll just keep on banging on their transaction fees. Bang, 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 bang. Okay, so that's the main thing. And the other thing is, right, cash always works. You pull out your pocket, cash always works. Remember a couple of years ago when the internet went down on these phones and everybody was running around like the world was in apocalyptic and it was all going to end because they couldn't spend and they couldn't buy stuff with cash because they had no way of buying stuff. Yeah, cash always works. If you go into a business and they don't accept cash, walk back out. I do. I try and spend cash as much as possible. And if a business doesn't want me cash, fine, don't have me cash. I'll find a business that does want me cash. If you notice, it's predominantly the big businesses who want you to use cards so that you overspend, and the little businesses want to use cash so they can actually help people manage their budgets. Does that make sense? So what else have I put here? And they go on about security as well. The banks keep banging on about how it's so secure to use your cards in your phone and all that lot. So if it was that secure, why do they have a card fraud department? Yep. If I've got £100 in my pocket and somebody mugs me and beats me up for the £100, they probably deserve that £100. Yep. But the latest phase is people walk past you, they zap your phone with a little card reader and they steal money off you, or they steal money on your online banking. I think I must be one of the only people in the country who doesn't do online banking because I don't trust it. I really don't trust online banking because how many times you can be hacked and all that. You hear all the time about data breaches and people are being hacked and their cards are being frozen and then you've got no cash on you. Apparently, as I said, 30% of people don't use cash at all. They just walk around with cards. So what happens if your card gets frozen? You can't spend anything. So at least carry a little bit of cash around with you. I'm just going to see what else I'll put down. Save money. I've got that. As you say, and the other thing is, if everybody keeps on using cards, what's going to happen is cash is going to go completely. Now, people might say, oh, well, the banks only charge 1 or 2% for a card machine. That's not that bad yet. But that's because people have got a choice. What happens when cash has gone completely? When there's no more cash? The banks can charge whatever they like, and you'll have absolutely no choice, which means all the prices go up. And who's going to make money on this? Not you and me, the banks. The banks will make money and they'll give themselves massive, massive millions of pounds bonuses, like when we went through the financial crash and everything went completely mental. The bank bonuses were still being paid out, even though the government ended up having to bail out some of the banks. They don't care, do they? As long as they get their money and they want to know everything is going. Now, I'm going to go to a real conspiracy theory now here, yeah. But the way it's going in society, you've got the government and you've got everybody trying to tell you what to do. You can't smoke outside pubs. You can't do this. You shouldn't have that many McDonald's. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do the other. They're trying to control what we do in society. Now, at the moment, if I go out and buy 10 McDonald's in a week, nobody can track. Nobody knows how many McDonald's I have. That's my choice. Yep. Or if I go to the pub and have 20 pints of beer, that's my choice. But what happens when we get to the scenario that everything's paid by card? That card. It means everything's traced. Now, if the government then decides, this isn't that far away, the signs are there, then if the government decides, oh, what we're going to do is the maximum you can have is you can only have 2 takeaways a week. Okay? So, because everybody's too fat. Okay? So the government now decide to put a block on it. So if you go into a takeaway and you have 1 takeaway, 2 takeaway, when you come to your 3rd takeaway, they say, sorry, can't serve you. Your limit's gone. You spent all your money you're allowed to spend on takeaways. Now, okay, people might say, oh, we're eating too many takeaways or we're drinking too many beer. But what right have the government got to tell us what we can and can't do? Surely that's our right. We're grown-ups and we should be allowed to do what we want with our money. Now, if money's taken away and there's only a digital way of buying purchases and buying products, everything we do can be tracked. I really don't want to live in a society like that. I've got nothing to hide. I've absolutely nothing to hide, yeah? But that's not the point. Do I really want the government telling me what I can and can't do with the money that I've earned? Anyway, that's my thoughts on cash, yeah? So the first thing is, my opinion, when you use a card, you overspend and you end up in debt. You end up in debt because you spend too much money on stuff you don't need. You buy purchases you don't want. And sometimes you end up using the credit card and stuff like that. So you end up in debt, which is exactly what the bank want. Exactly what they want, because they want to keep you in debt so they can keep getting interest off you, yeah? Also, cash works all the time. Even when the internet's down or the electricity's down, it still works. And by not using card and using cash, them savings are passed on to the businesses, and the businesses then pass it back on to the customer, and instead of the banks taking it. Anyway, what do you think, guys? Please put your comments below and let me know. My opinion, cash is king. Use it or lose it. See you later, guys, and thanks for watching.